So the Xbox One's November 22nd release date is fast approaching, and there's some pretty cool games coming out on it. What do we think so far?
I think it's got to go down as one of the most exciting launches in terms of games lineup we've ever seen. This is pretty incredible, really, what you're getting. And straight off the bat, and the quality is just so high, building on what we've had from last generation. Things like Assassin's Creed taking a huge leap forward on Xbox One.
Of course. Well, we've got 23 games coming out on launch, which sort of by Microsoft standards is one of the biggest lineups they've had on a day one before. And that comes, complete with 8 exclusives, which is Crimson Dragon, Dead Rising 3, Fight Within, Forza 5, Killer Instinct, Loco Cycle, Power Star Golf, and Rise Son of Rome. And to be honest, they're all looking pretty solid. There's only 2 Kinect games out of the bunch, which is Fight Within and Power Star Golf.
Mm-hmm.
How do we feel about Kinect at this stage? I mean, it's still a bit of a...
It's still very early. I mean, the fact that it's being bundled now with the Xbox should mean that there'll be a greater inclination to try and make use of it in interesting ways. It's much the same as we had with last generation, where people had Xboxes with very low memory capacity or no hard drive at all, and it forced people to develop to the lowest common denominator. That's not going to be a problem with Kinect this time. There's no worry about, what if someone doesn't have Kinect? Everyone's going to have Kinect.
Of course. I think it's almost a bit of a worry that we've got a game like Crimson Dragon that was initially designed for Kinect, coming out on 360 originally, and now they've pretty much sacked off Kinect and said, you know what, you can sit down on your couch, you can pick up a controller and play it as you will. I mean, do you think that's a bit damning for Kinect, or do you think it would be okay going out of November?
I think it should be fine. I think that a game like Crimson Dragon was maybe something of an example of a game that really needed to have that controller support because it was based on an old franchise, Panzer Dragoon, so popular. People want to have that familiarity with that sort of classic gameplay. And Kinect maybe would have been tricky to control it and still feel like it was the same quality of game.
No, of course. Well, I think right here's one of our sort of most anticipated launch titles, which is of course FIFA 14 coming bundled in the box with the day one edition of Xbox One.
It's very exciting. I mean, it's not, FIFA isn't going to be the game that people go, next generation, the game I definitely want to play is FIFA. That's not really, FIFA's always going to be there. But when you buy a new console, you want your standards on there. You want your default games, the ones you go back to again and again. And FIFA is always going to be one of those.
Of course. I mean, I've played the Xbox One version recently at Eurogamer Expo, and it's fantastic. It's just the quality of visuals is such a step up, and it's shaping up great. It's looking really, really good. And sports titles are like the staple of any launch lineup, so
they're the ones that they're the most social. They're the ones you can just dip in and out of. They last 10 minutes, and you can just kind of chain a few games together, and it fills up a half an hour. They're nice and light, and they're just easy. They're a nice bite-sized game play, which is always great to have around, just to fill in those little gaps in the day.
Totally. And right here again we got Forza 5, which is looking absolutely amazing, just visually stunning. It plays so smooth, and it really is coming to sort of redefine racing, which is exactly what Microsoft needs to be doing, especially when they've got such stiff competition in Need for Speed Rivals and Drive Club over on Sony's PS4 this Christmas as well.
Absolutely. But Forza has kind of established itself over the course of this last generation as the top driving sim in the industry. So it's kind of everyone's following in its footsteps, really.
And again, if you just sort of want to embarrass yourself on next gen, we got Just Dance coming straight to it.
It's a funny one. It's the kind of game that we might, some gamers might turn their noses up. I've heard personally from the guys who've played this game, it's the most fun they've ever had with a Just Dance game. There's some cool karaoke elements. So for a party kind of situation, if you're getting a console for the holidays, you're going to want a game like this to play with the family.
Of course, I was actually a little surprised because Harmonix, who obviously used to do the old sort of Guitar Hero games,
Dance Central,
that's sort of one of the best Kinect games.
Would have thought that would have been a launch game. Yeah, strange that it hasn't been announced.
And they're working on a Fantasia game for next year, which looks cool, but it's not really the sort of pedigree of Dance Central. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, I'm always keen to see something new from Harmonix though, so I'm not entirely disappointed there's no Dance Central, because if it means they're working on a new idea, probably going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And again, more sports titles. I think NBA 2K14 is one of the sort of... I feel so sorry for them. Going up against sort of EA's NBA Live, which they've just resurrected for next gen, and then you've got 2K's sort of faithful series coming back for a next gen installment as well. just how do you go up against EA at Christmas, you know?
It's tough, but you've got what NBA 2K14 has is that established brand and that kind of faith that the players have played this game so far now over the last few years. They know they're going to get really top quality gameplay, and it's a familiarity. NBA Live is a bit riskier. It's come back. You said it's been resurrected. It kind of died a death, and now it's trying to make a return. Is it going to hold up? We'll find out.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, again, Need for Speed has only been getting better the last couple of years with Criterion behind the wheel. This is the first from Ghost Games, which is essentially a studio made up of Criterion staff members. But you know what? It plays and it looks incredible. I was a huge fan of the last few installments, so I'm excited to pick this up on day one.
And Need for Speed's been flying back and forth a little bit from developer to developer, kind of resettling back with Criterion, then going to someone else, then back to Criterion, then someone else. It's nice to know that it's going to have a permanent home with one developer who can just concentrate on it entirely. And this is looking like a fantastic kind of arcade racer, just all the fun that you would expect from Need for Speed.
Totally. I think sometimes just the sort of sim antics of games like Forza can drag you down a bit. They are so sort of tough and demanding on your sort of time and skill. And, you know, nothing like Call of Duty Ghosts, though, which is pretty much the opposite of those Forza defining requirements. But Ghost looks great this year, I think.
Yeah, and it kind of harkens back to the Xbox 360 launch that had Call of Duty 2.
Yep.
That was that really kind of set the tone for the generation in terms of a great FPS game. Obviously, it wasn't the pinnacle of what Call of Duty would go on to achieve, but it was a calling card. It kind of set the Xbox 360 up as the shooter console.
Yeah.
So having Call of Duty again at launch, you know, it feels right. It feels like this needed to happen. And it's looking fantastic.
Yeah, it's looking great. You know, they're really sort of doing their best to Infinity Ward are doing their best to redefine it in a sense. You know, they're changing the kill streaks and perks, making the game less reliant on it. They're putting in destruction of the maps, and I think obviously it's going to be huge this Christmas. Although I sort of feel like maybe this is the year where it finally sort of succumbs a bit to this generation lag that we've had of the franchise.
Perhaps. Personally, a fan of Madden. I suppose maybe we'll just leave it at that. Always enjoy a bit of Madden.
Yeah, Skylanders as well. You know, at this point, sort of jumping in, and there's so many figures to buy. It's just defeating on your wallet, and you know, but it's great. It's one of the funnest platformers that we've got right now, and there isn't a huge selection. But the fact that you can actually jump now means, hey, it's finally a real platformer, and you know.
And our biggest recommendation with Peggle 2 is don't download it down one. That might sound negative, but if you do download it day one, you'll play nothing else.
You'll play nothing else.
So just, you know, save it for like a few days. Try and play something else, and then start playing Peggle 2.
Timed exclusive for Xbox One, so I hope that brings in a lot of sales. And here we go. Like this is the Kinect sort of Kinect-centric golf game, Power Star Golf. It looks a lot like the PlayStation franchise Hot Shots.
Yeah.
If you remember that was really good fun. I mean, this looks great, you know, real sort of cel-shaded fun, and I'd rather have this than Tiger Woods on my launch, personally.
I do like a good arcade golf game. Sometimes it can be a lot of fun. The big dark horse, though, is this one, isn't it? This Rise.
Rise, Son of Rome. Crytek have really split fan opinion right down the middle with this one. You know, had a really bad showing at E3, but everything we've seen and had a little chance to play since then has been really impressive. It's just the reliance on quick time events that's sort of dragging us down a bit, I think.
I think QTs can work really well, but they have to be sort of exciting enough and engaging enough.
Yep.
And they can't be too kind of, I guess pedantic is the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
Sometimes they can be very fiddly and very punishing if you don't quite get them right. When they're done correctly, they give you the room to get hit those buttons right, but still feel like you're under some time pressure.
Of course, and this is personally one of my most anticipated games of the year. Battlefield 4 recently went hands-on with the Xbox One version, and it looks gorgeous, and it plays fantastically. Still waiting to see how they're going to implement sort of the impulse triggers and those various features. But it's everything that you'd want next-gen Battlefield to be. It's big, it's bodacious, it's fantastic.
And fascinating to see Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty Ghosts come out simultaneously at launch on Xbox One, literally going head-to-head for the first time.
In a very long time.
Yeah,
you know, it's just, it's crazy. I'm so excited, and I was a bit disappointed by the 360 version, to be honest, but on Xbox One, it really does play exactly how you'd want it to. And, well, Watch Dogs. What can we say about Watch Dogs that hasn't already been said in the last, 2 years? Has it been 2 or 3 years? It's crazy.
I mean, this is the game that everyone really got excited about next gen because of this. It was it feels familiar to some of the things we've seen in the last generation, but it's kind of taking things up a step. It's kind of implementing a lot of really cool ideas in terms of gameplay, in terms of animation, story development, and things like that.
I'm sort of interested to see whether it is actually going to somehow secretly tie into Assassin's Creed, because that seems to be like this big rumor that it's they're sort of taking the Templar assassin fight into like a future, which is what we always wanted from Creed. And is Watch Dogs going to do it? We'll find out in about a month. It's crazy. And yeah, last up, Killer Instinct, the franchise nobody wanted to come back, and it's back.
I don't know about that. I think there was a big call for Killer Instinct. Maybe they didn't want it to come back in this particular form.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, Rare aren't doing it, obviously. The good news is a lot of the Rare staff that worked on Killer Instinct are. So, it's not all bad. It's fine. It's another fighting game. It's free to play with some fairly controversial sort of ideas in that regard.
I think basically it's free to play, so you got a chance to give it a try before you start putting any money behind it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you do start buying all the characters, you're going to end up paying for a bit less than what a box product would have cost you. So there's still some value there.
And I tell you what, Zoo Tycoon, I fell in love with you at Eurogamer Expo.
We were really surprised. I mean, we're sort of fans of Zoo Tycoon, maybe somewhat ironically, not entirely ironically.
Definitely
we actually just quite really enjoy it. But what really surprised us was your reaction on Twitter to this game. You guys love this game so much, and that's really, really pleasing.
And Zumba, just in case you can't wait for the Xbox One Fitness app next year, have some dancing, feel a bit better about yourself after laying on the couch playing hundreds of hours of Call of Duty Ghosts, and just get yourself fit.